Okay, hi there. Here we have a writing at level C2. This is a report for a company, for your departmental manager. Okay, let me read the question. Your manager has realized that the staff in your department are unhappy at work at the moment and asks you to write a report on the matter. Write your report listing the causes of their dissatisfaction, providing examples to illustrate them, and explaining what the staff would like to be done to rectify them. And this is by Slow Sunset Vibes. Let's see, this is probably should be 320 to 340 words. Okay, betterment of the working conditions. So I like this word betterment a lot. I think it would be better though with betterment of working conditions without the betterment of working conditions, just generally, particularly as this is a title. Introduction. The current report is to apprise managers of the present working conditions, how demotivated the employees feel, and in what way or what changes could be implemented to provide a safer and more fulfilling workplace. Okay, so the current report, yeah, that works, is to apprise. I like this word apprise. Apprise managers. I might say apprise management. Uncountable generally. Sorry, this needs to be in capitals. Of the present working conditions. So, yeah, let's see. I would like to use current here, of current working conditions without the. So the current report, this report, is to apprise management of current working conditions, how demotivated employees generally feel, and in what way or what changes could be implemented to provide a safer and more fulfilling workplace. How demotivated feel, and I think I'm going to lose this or bit, and changes that might be implemented to provide a safer and more fulfilling workplace. Okay, this is not bad for a first an opening paragraph. Should these be applied, the company is liable to experience an upturn in their revenue, and more importantly, a happier staff. So the company, their revenue, I would say should these be applied? I want to put this following straight on here. So should these be applied? Okay, should these changes be applied? The company is liable to experience an upturn in its revenue. So, is liable to. This is sounding terribly formal. let's see, this is a report for your manager. Yeah, you said originally to apprise managers. I think this needs to be something like a 6.5 in formality, no more than that. Is liable to experience. This is something like 7.5 or even 8 in formality, an upturn in its revenue. So, should these changes, should said changes, should these changes, should these changes be applied, the company is liable, is liable to, I think we just make this will, experience an upturn in, and lose the it's completely, in revenue, and more importantly, I like this, and more importantly, a happier staff. So happier, a more motivated staff, and more importantly, I would probably say an increase in staff motivation. And this automated A has to go back to A. Okay. This, as a first paragraph, this reads quite nicely. It introduces it well. This is a good paragraph. Safety and welfare of, and again, workers, just generally. Yeah, it's a title. In headlines, we tend to take out these where we can. Working at an electronics store, mishaps ought to occur. Okay, this doesn't work. Okay, this ought, they say this is saying that mishaps have an obligation to occur. Okay, we definitely need the word inevitably. Okay, mishaps is fairly informal. It's probably like a 4.5 in formality. It's okay. I actually quite like it, because I think you've been going over the top a bit with the formality. So working at an electronics store, I would say just in an electronics store. In an electronics store, mishaps in an electronics store, mishaps are inevitable. They're inevitably going to occur. And then let's link that to the next one. Whoops. Despite this, several recurrent and already reported incidents still remain unanswered by the Health and Safety Department, are inevitable. Despite this, okay. Yeah, notwithstanding this, nevertheless, notwithstanding this fact, okay, so, yeah, despite this works, despite this, several recurrent incidents have been reported to the Health and Safety Department despite this, several recurrent incidents have been reported to the Health and Safety Department. However, as of yet, no response has been received. Despite this, several recurrent incidents despite this, several recurrent incidents which have been reported to the Health and Safety Department, and that, and then this will make this are still outstanding, and no response has been received. Okay, that reads quite nicely. Our major concern is the lack of provision of protective gloves. Okay, lack of provision of, it's okay, but it's a bit over formal. I would just say our major concern is the lack of protective gloves. And then join this to the next sentence with a semicolon. At this juncture, our engineers are expected to work on and scrutinize electronic equipment without being fully protected. At this juncture, as a result of this, our major concern is that at this juncture, our engineers are expected to scrutinize. Scrutinize is a bit over the top informality. To work on and work on and inspect electronic equipment without full protection. Not only does this show a blatant disregard for the worker's safety, so clearly this ought to be a for workers' safety. So not only does this show, I like this not only in the inversion, does this show a blatant disregard, this is a very nice collocation. So for workers' safety, I might say for the safety of workers, for workers' safety, okay, but it is also extremely deleterious. It's terribly formal. It's also dangerous for them. It's also, I would probably say something else though, I mean, it's also demotivating for them. There's a blatant disregard for workers' safety. but it is also extremely, I would say, demotivating for them, but I know it's not deleterious, it's dangerous for them, is demotivating. And for them, but it's also extremely demotivating. We know for them already. Yeah? So our major concern is the lack of protective gloves. At this juncture, our engineers are expected to work on to work on and inspect, to handle, to repair, to work on, to use. No, use doesn't work. Expected to, I guess work on works. To work on and inspect electronic equipment without full protection. I'm going to put manipulate. And inspect electronic equipment without full protection. Not only does this show a blatant disregard for worker safety, but it also but it is also extremely demotivating. So requests of time off, requests for time off, and it's approval. You don't need respective, yeah, because it's very clear that it's applying to the same thing. At the moment, the company conforms to the rule that states that any time off which is to be requested should be properly done so with at least 3 weeks beforehand. Ouch, this doesn't read very well at all. So at the moment, conforms to conform to, you conform to a standard. So at the moment, currently, presently, I like presently a lot more. Presently, the company applies a rule, follows a rule, uses a rule, follows a rule, which states that any time off let's lose the rest of this. Any time off must be applied for, must be requested, must be applied for at least 3 weeks beforehand. Alright, so must be applied for with at least, I'm going to say, with at least 3 weeks notice. And I don't think you need any more than that. Presently, the company follows a rule which states that any time off must be applied for with at least 3 weeks notice. While we, your staff, understand the decision was put into effect in order to provide ample time for the company to manage its logistics, inevitable emergencies are to be taken into account. While we, your staff, you don't need all that. I would just say staff. So, staff understand the decision, the policy, this policy was put into effect in order to provide ample time for the company to manage its logistics. However, inevitable emergencies will always crop up. And there must be a mechanism to take this into account. And there must be a mechanism to take this into account. An instance of this would be a situation that took place last week, where John Casey, one of my closest peers, had to abruptly call off as one of his offspring had been hospitalized. An instance of this would be the situation where it's very long-winded. So, an instance of this. An example, and a perfect example, took place last week when John Casey, one of my closest peers, had to abruptly call off. To call off, you can't call off like that. Had to suddenly take time off as one of his offspring, this is too formal, as one of his children had been hospitalized. Experience how his requested time off was cavalierly disregarded and therefore declined, exasperated some of our staff, who believe the company business takes precedence over its stalwart workers' welfare. Experiencing how his requested time off was cavalierly disregarded. Okay, so was cavalierly disregarded, I quite like his request. So, the fact that his request was cavalierly disregarded, and therefore, I'm going to take out these commas, and therefore per se declined, exasperated some of our staff. Many members of staff, of staff who believe the company business takes precedence over its stalwart workers' welfare. Well, they don't believe this. They believe that the company believes. Take precedent is good. Precedence is good. Expatriate many members of staff who believe, who feel, so I'm probably going to use prioritize here, who believe the company prioritizes its business over its stalwart workers' welfare. I would probably put this the other way round, over the welfare of its stalwart workers. I quite like that, stalwart workers' welfare. The fact that his request was cavalierly disregarded and therefore per se declined exasperated many members of staff who believe the company prioritizes business over the welfare of its stalwart workers. Working toward a better future. Okay, the original had 323 words, which was perfect. To conclude, it exists a unanimous mentality in the workforce that an upheaval needs to arise. Ouch. It exists a unanimous, so firstly you would have to say there exists a unanimous mentality, but you would probably want to say a unanimous mentality exists amongst the workforce that an upheaval needs to arise. To conclude, I think you really need to change this completely. The workforce feel that a radical change in mentality, in ethos and mentality needs to arise, needs to take place. A radical change in ethos and mentality is a must. is a must. Consequently, discarding of such outmoded practices would lead to a more auspicious future, not only pecuniarily, but also in an increased index of company index. So consequently, consequently, outmoded practices would be discarded, leading to a more auspicious future. I might say a brighter future. To a brighter future. Not only financially. Pecuniarily, it's okay, but it's incredibly formal. It's over the top with formality. Not only financially, but also in, I would just say something in worker satisfaction, in worker fulfillment, in job satisfaction, I'm just going to say job satisfaction. Okay, so let me go from the top again. You rather hit the rocks here in this last this last paragraph. Let's see. Let me read from the beginning again with what we've got now. Betterment of working conditions. Introduction. This report is to apprise management of current working conditions, how demotivated employees feel, and changes that might be implemented to provide a safer and more fulfilling working environment. Should these changes be applied, the company will experience, the company would experience an upturn in revenue and, more importantly, an increase in staff motivation. Safety and welfare of workers. In an electronics store, mishaps are inevitable. Despite this, several recurrent incidents which have been reported to the Health and Safety Department are still outstanding and no response has been received. Our major concern is the lack of protective gloves. At this juncture, our engineers are expected to manipulate and inspect electronic equipment without full protection. Not only does this show a blatant disregard for worker safety, but it is also extremely demotivating. Requests for time off and its approval. Presently, the company follows a rule which states that any time off must be applied for with at least 3 weeks' notice. Staff understand that this policy was put into effect in order to provide ample time for the company to manage its logistics. However, inevitable emergencies will always crop up, and there must be a mechanism to take this into account. A perfect example took place last week when John Casey, one of my closest peers, had to suddenly take time off as one of his children had been hospitalised. And I think this just follows straight on. The fact that his request was cavalierly disregarded and therefore per se declined, exasperated many members of staff who believe the company prioritises business over the welfare of its stalwart workers, working towards a better future. To conclude, the workforce feel that a radical change in ethos and mentality is a must. Consequently, outmoded practices would be discarded, leading to a brighter future, not only financially but also in job satisfaction. Okay, so let's see now. What do I say about this? You seem to have rather blown up at the end. Yeah, you seem to have got into quite a lot of difficulty about it. So let's see. So, did you answer the question? Yeah, I think you answered. You've completed the task quite well. You've done all of the criteria. You've included the necessary information. I think I'm probably going to give you 4 out of 5 for answering the question. Communicative achievement. So is the writing appropriate for this task? Okay, I think you went over the top with formality. Yeah, the register goes a bit too far. Although it does effectively hold the reader's attention, it's easy to, you don't get bored at any point. I think probably communicative achievement 3 out of 5. Organisation. The writing is coherently organised. Yes, it's definitely fairly coherent, and you're using cohesive devices quite well, and ideas are quite well connected. So, is it easy to follow? Yes, it's reasonable. It is reasonably easy to follow. I think again probably organisation 3 out of 5. Language. Okay, there's a good range of language and grammar, but the language and grammar is not always appropriate for the genre. It's some of it's a bit over formal. There are some mistakes, and I think in this last paragraph it becomes a little bit more difficult to understand. It becomes confusing. I think probably language 3, 2, 3, 2. I think probably a 3, a 2, a 3. I think probably a 2. Let's see. Overall, I think I want to give the essay a C plus. Let's see. I think the first 3 paragraphs are fine. As you get towards the end, you start to fall to pieces, and this last paragraph, if it wasn't for that, I think I would be giving it a B. So it's definitely a pass. I think with practice you're going to be able to do this much better. One of the other things that you need to do is to try to find a way where it reads more naturally. Yeah, that it sounds like natural English, and that is the thing that's really going to make a difference if you can do that. So enough. If you enjoyed the video, give it a rating, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you soon. Bye for now.